obsessed with famous icons, Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, but as well he was obsessed with artistry. He was.
So these are blind chart readings. We just thought for a bit of a laugh we'd give each other charts of anonymous deceased people. That's people who are no longer with us, mainly so they can't sue, but we're just going to give each other charts that we don't know who they are. Obviously one of us has chosen a chart, we've given it to somebody else, we haven't told them who they are. We've each had 20 minutes to interpret our chart. We've only told each other whether the person is male or female, and that's it. Now, one thing to say about this, astrology is a context-dependent art, like all divination, meaning that usually in a real-life situation, you need a bit of context, because this chart could be the chart of a fridge, a toaster, a mammal, a human, a building, or whatever.
Goose.
And a goose or something like that. In terms of people,
or a country.
maybe, or a country. But if it's a person, there may be 10 or 20 or more people with almost an identical chart. So in real life, you ask the person questions to see how the chart is working in their life and how it has worked in the past, and that enables you to give a better interpretation. So this is a little bit of a disclaimer in the sense that these readings will not be as accurate as they would normally be, partly because we've only spent 20 minutes doing the work when normally a practicing astrologer might spend upwards of 2-3 hours, sometimes longer, doing the homework for a person. And also in real life you'd have a real person to ask how the chart has worked in the past, to bounce questions off and get a more accurate prediction and reading. But with that said, should be a bit of fun, so I hope you enjoy it. Right?
Yeah. All right, shall I start it? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I get a very interesting chart, and I'm thinking this chart is describes someone be a communicator, thinker, or kind of have a great mind. And this chart is also described, what should I say? I don't know the vocabulary I use is right or not. A visionary. It's the kind of, he has a vision and he stick to his dream, he stick to what he believes is right. And he could be, I think he could be really, also in one way, there's a two side. Let me describe this. In one way, he rebel what's set up. And in another way, he created his own rule, his own kingdom, his own realm, and then he really push you forward for it. I don't want to say he don't trust people or he don't trust God. He could be his own God. He could be his own authority. And what I really like is that people know him, or people who attract by him because he offer a solid way to approach life or philosophy or the world or how to see the world in a very unique way, and maybe a little bit liberal. And also the liberation is major theme. Liberation and independence is major theme in this chart. I think one thing is possible. He could liberate people from the old pattern, from the old world. And also, I mentioned about the individualism and a little bit independent. I think it could be a little bit the two sides, is very opposite side. One is he could be seen as a goddish person. People worship him, or people really, really adore him and follow his idea, follow his philosophy. But himself, I think, could be appear or being criticized about he believe in nothing, or he don't trust God, or he don't trust people, and a little bit what we call I don't know am I pronouncing this right, nihilism. Nihilism. And another side of him, he could be criticized as a little bit, cut off, arrogant, or maybe a little bit authoritative. That's a few things I pick up from this chart. And another thing I feel quite interesting recently, as I try to pick up a little bit of transit. I think recently, for last 2-3 years, maybe there is a secret being revealed about his life, or dark side being revealed from his life. I don't know about this, but it could be because transit always bring dead people back.
Yes, interesting.
Okay, that's what I can see from this chart. Just a very, very quick snapshot about this chart. So I'm looking forward to know who he is now.
Rod, this is a chart of Andy Warhol.
Oh.
So what you said about the creativity, about
Yeah.
creating his own kingdom,
Yeah.
you picked up on all that Leo there in
Yeah.
his chart. He created his own kingdom. He created what was called the factory, which was a hub where all the creatives and the weirdos and and he was obsessed with famous icons, Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, but as well he was obsessed with artistry. His creative expression was incredible. He started off in the traditional way. You picked up on the traditional and just going, completely revolutionary and different. He started off in business as working for businesses as an illustrator in the advertising industry. He took those ideas and took them into high art, pop art, perfect for all that Leo, pop art. Those screen prints of Campbell soup cans. So he made the ordinary extraordinary, and the Marilyn Monroe, famous for 15 minutes. That was his catchphrase that he's remembered for. Famous for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the chart with the Aries moon and all the very strong Leo.
Yeah.
And he was also an experimental filmmaker.
Yeah.
And interestingly, actually, he was actually a practicing Catholic, but he kept it secret for most of his life. He snuck into the church. He didn't go and take communion because he didn't want anyone to see.
Yeah.
And he was very charitable. He volunteered apparently at homeless shelters and that kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
about the religions, about the beliefs.
So you picked up on, that's about the astrology. Rod picked up that religious aspect quite strongly.
Yeah.
And you said he might not be religious, but he was secretly religious. So people wouldn't know that he was religious.
Yeah.
So anybody else have any thoughts on Andy Warhol, or if you know anything about him? And
No, what did you say about, you said something about he could be his own god, or something about the god thing. I felt that also related to the 15 minutes of fame and the icons, we even use the same word, icons.
Yes.
So like the Marilyn Monroe icons, there's almost something profane about pop art, where previously art in history was used, icons were used for religious purposes.
Yes.
His works are referred to as iconic.
Iconic.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It might.
And in his domain in the factory, I've seen it on pictures and depicted in films about his life, and also some of his films. He was an experimental filmmaker, and also a music producer, interestingly. There's pictures of him almost sitting on some kind of, a bit like a throne, and people coming into his orbit, and him bestowing.
And that's a little bit kingish, a little bit of his, I have my kingdom.
Oh,
Absolutely. And he was openly gay before the gay revolution, before it was okay to be openly gay. Although when I read his biography, it said that many people who knew him believed that actually he was celibate. But that's interesting.
Oh, okay.
So sort of that's on the surface, sort of, this is what I am.
Yeah. Oh. It's really interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
When
I pick up on religions, because I focus on the 10th house, and there is the Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Tauro, and I say, that is very tight conjunction. You see 1 degree, and I say that could be go either side. Very devoted religious who believe everything, or who really.
Well, again, now we know that context. Chiron is one's deepest wound. So having the planet of religion in a sign which represents the physical production, and having one's wound there, it's like, for him as an openly gay man, then there would have been a conflict with his Catholic belief, and yet he was especially devout, and his work was producing pop icons. There are all of those things tied up in that symbolism, I think.
Yeah, that's very interesting actually, because he's got 3 planets in the 12th house, with the sun rising, so he's born at dawn. And it's like, in a sense, you get a feeling that there is very much a hidden side to this guy, that you just don't see immediately. It's like, there's a great depth of of interesting abilities in there. He's also got Saturn in the 5th house, I noticed. So it's like, you know, he had to be kind of different, form his own way of doing things, do it with quite a lot of intensity, but do a lot of things behind closed doors, in a sense.
Yes, but I mean, I really like what Rod's interpretation was there when you said about, you know, that he drew people around him, that people knew him, and essentially all of that was spot on, like you said, Mandy, and then his independent nature and all of that.
Liberating people from the old patterns.
Oh,
from the
yeah.
old
Yes,
world.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so everything, every theme that you identified was spot on and very visible in his biography.
I like to mention one is because in the beginning when I do this, I'm like, oh, am I going to do right or wrong? But then suddenly one day I read on Facebook about something. Recently on Facebook, people say, oh, when other people see people this, people, and I see people a horoscope. I think for me, as a very, I don't know, it's unusual something. When I see people, still people, even chart. When I say chart, still a chart, people, still people. But how they use their chart, how they bring their chart into
It's
their
very
life.
individual.
Yeah, it's very individual, I have to say that.
That's why, as Marcus said, you know, it's like when you've got somebody in front of you and you can bounce things off that person, it helps to put the whole chart into the context of that person's situation. And how they've used their chart.
So it's still remarkable. That's always the line in astrology. It's like you'll get these themes until you've had them made flesh, until you've got somebody in front of you who can tell you the details of their story. You can't be exactly sure what form that will take, but it's fascinating that even in this blind reading you managed to get major themes that appeared in his own particular way. But it's so, you know, good job.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant job.